Welcome to my live stream. Welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, or if you're new here, I am Shania, and I have a YouTube channel where I focus on sewing tutorials. Some tutorials are of things that are made from scratch, and then other tutorials are made from already existing garments and items. Um, so if you're into sewing and super easy to follow tutorials, you should definitely check out my channel and my videos. I've been going live for the past 9 days, and I'm actually doing like a live stream challenge where I'm going to try to go live for 21 days straight, talking about different things. And for today, I'm actually going to be talking about different sewing resources here in New York City, whether you live here or whether you're visiting. And I like did put together something, and I tried not to make it just like, oh, mood fabrics, go fabric shopping. I tried to make it a bit more well-rounded. So I'm just going to pull up my list and get into the resources. And if you're joining me, let me know if you're in New York, or if not, let me know where you are. But like I said, this list of resources is for like New York based places. So I divided it by borough. I didn't do anything for Queens because honestly, I don't mess with Queens like that, or the Bronx. So I divided it by Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Harlem, which Harlem is technically Manhattan. Okay, so starting with Brooklyn, um, if you are looking for pretty well priced fabric and fabric notions and you're in Brooklyn, I suggest you check out NurJahan. They actually have two locations. They have a location on Flatbush Ave in Flatbush, and then they have another location in Bedstuy on Fulton Street. And I literally like NurJahan. That's my go-to like fabric store because it's so close to me. It's like a almost about a 20-minute walk. And they usually have like a good selection of stuff. So definitely recommend NurJahan. Still within Brooklyn, I also recommend, my goodness, get your tongue together. Still within Brooklyn, I recommend Fab Scrap. So Fab Scrap, basically, as the name suggests, is a company that they collect scrap fabric. And I know it might sound a little like scrap fabric, like you imagine like little tiny pieces of fabric, but it's not necessarily that. Like scrap fabric in their case could be like yards of fabric, right? It's like fabric um, that companies don't use, or they only use a little bit of it and then give the rest to Fab Scrap. Um, and what I haven't actually like affiliated myself with Fab Scrap yet. I will though. But based on the things I've heard about them from a friend of mine and things that I've read like on their IG page, what I really like about them is that they have this kind of this program where you can get free fabric from them in exchange for volunteering. So if you volunteer and help them like sort out their fabric that they have, they'll allow you, I think, up to 5 free pounds of fabric. And that was the last time I checked. I don't know if anything has changed since then. So definitely check out Fab Scrap. Um, I feel like there was something else. Excuse me. I feel like there was something else that I wanted to say about Fab Scrap in Brooklyn. Um, oh yeah. So on their website, they mentioned that with their scrap fabric, they sell their scrap fabric. They donate their scrap fabric, and then whatever scrap fabric they don't use, what they do is they take it and they recycle it. So they might like compile it all and make it like a carpet or rug or like a filler or something. So that, like, they're super sustainable and nothing goes to waste at FabScrap. Another good Brooklyn resource for anyone who's interested in sewing, it's called BlackGirlsSew, and they basically offer sewing classes and workshops. And they have sewing classes and workshops for young girls as well as for adults. They even have this thing called sip and sew, where you just come with a project and they have sewing machines there and they provide wine and I think light bites, I think. And you just work on your project in a community of amongst the community of other people who are sewing. And even if you don't have your own sewing project, like they already have like group projects available and ready for you to participate in if you don't have something that you're sewing. So definitely recommend Black Girls Sew in Brooklyn. And like I said, they do offer classes for young girls. So if you have, if you know a young girl who would like a sewing class, like whether it's like a summer camp sewing class, they have it. And it's like they're really good. Another Brooklyn resource for people who are interested in sewing is LC Apparel. So LC Apparel, I'm not gonna lie, and I'm gonna be straight up about it from the beginning. They are a bit expensive. Like their prices are expensive. Um, but I guess you could consider it a investment in terms of what they offer. So at LC Apparel, they have sewing classes, they have draping classes, but what I feel sets them apart is the fact that they have business orientated classes for people who are trying to start their own fashion boutique, or people who are trying to get into manufacturing and making samples and like branding. Like they are not just like heavy on the um like the I don't know, the tangible part of sewing. They also help you with the business part of it. So LC Apparel is another one. Another Brooklyn resource for people who love to sew, and this is actually my favorite resource that I'm sharing. I almost wanted to gatekeep this, but I'm not going to. Sharing is caring. Is Textile Art Center. Textile Art Center is amazing. They don't just cater to people who sew. They really cater to anybody within the textile field, whether you're into looming or, fabric dyeing or screen printing, like anything related to textiles as a whole. But personally speaking, what I really love about Textile Arts Center is the fact that they offer day pass. They offer studio day pass access. So the last time I checked, you pay like $35 and you can literally just bring yourself. And if you have a project already, you can bring that too. If you don't, that's okay, because they have a bunch of sewing machines. The last time I was there, they had like one, what is that called, industrial machine, but a bunch of like domestic sewing machines. And then they had excuse me, they had like one industrial like serger as well, but also a bunch of domestic sergers. Um, and they have dress forms there. They have like I want to say two or three closets with just like a bunch of scrap fabric that you can use. A bunch of like they have drawers full of like scissors and thread and pins, like literally the measuring tapes. Like they literally have everything that you could want. And I really love Textile Arts Center because it's like you literally just put your coat on, put your shoes on, and you go, knowing that everything you need is going to be there. And the reason why they have all these things like machines and thread and all that stuff is because they actually do have sewing classes there. As I mentioned, they also have like looming classes. And what is really cool that I like about Textile Arts Center is that they have residencies. They have residencies. I want to say like every year that you can apply to. And as a residency artist, you get your own little studio space and you work on a project to present. Like it's really really dope. If you are Brooklyn based or have access to Brooklyn, definitely check out the Textile Arts Centers. It's my favorite. So I'm just going to move on to the next borough, which is Manhattan. And this one is like, cliche. Everybody says the garment district, so I had to mention it. I would say if you find yourself like, oh, I don't want to just go to one store. I want to go to a bunch of stores to see what they have in terms of fabric and stuff. Just go to the garment district. Take the train to 34th Street. I want to say that's like the 2 train, I want to say. Um, Take the 2 train, get off at 34th Street, and just walk like all throughout 34th Street. Just like maybe start at like 6th Ave or 5th Ave and work your way all the way up to 6th Ave, 7th, 8th Ave along 34th Street, and you will pass a bunch of fabric stores. And I just kind of, listed it generically so that like I said, that's for people who don't want to feel confined to one store and want to have the freedom to like just explore. But in that area, in the garment district area, some stores that I really recommend um, are Moon Fabric, not Mood. Although Mood is good, Mood Fabric is good, but I'm gonna keep it 100 with y'all. Like Mood Fabric is good, but it's expensive. It's very expensive, and is it worth the expense? I guess, yeah, because it's a huge store and they do have a lot of like variety, right? Like they have a bunch of different fabrics, like for anything, not just apparel, but like upholstery or, leather fabric, like authentic, like legit genuine leather and like genuine silk. Like they do have a good variety. However, I am a frugal fanny, and wherever I can save a buck is where I will go. So, Mood Fabric is good, but I don't. It's not my like number one recommendation. I think it's a little bit like overhyped. Um, it is an experience though that I think everyone should have. I think everyone should go to Mood Fabric to check it out, but I'm not necessarily saying like make it your number one fabric store in Manhattan. A fabric store in Manhattan that I do recommend is Moon Fabrics. Moon, like the stars and the moon. Moon Fabrics is a good one. They're smaller than Mood Fabric, but the prices are not as like high as Mood Fabrics. I'm like having to like change my brain to not say mood versus moon. But Mood Fabric is good. I think I have like a tutorial where I'm like making this I don't know if you can see, but that hat right there, not the top one, but the black and white one here at the bottom. I have a tutorial where I made this hat with some matching pants, and in the tutorial I stop at Moon Fabrics to get the fabric for that. So yeah, it's worth it. Another thing that I will say that I really like about shopping in the garment district for fabric is that they have specialized stores. So let's say if you're working on a project that is like a specific type of fabric, um you don't have to waste your time like going to a fabric store that has all these different types of fabric. Like Mood, for example, is going to have a bunch of different type of fabrics. Instead, in the garment district, there are stores that are specifically geared to the type of fabric you need. For example, if you're looking for all lace fabric, there are fabric stores that's like just lace. If you're looking for spandex fabric in particular, there's a handful. Okay, I'm not gonna lie and say handful, but there are, like, I can think of 3 fabric stores that are just stretch fabric in there. There's Spandex World, there's Spandex House, and then there's another one that I can't remember the name of. But those are all in Midtown along 34th Street. So, and the prices are good and the variety is good and the quality is, that's one thing I will say. Like, if I were to do a comparison of, hold on, let me take a drink because I'm thirsty. If I were to do a comparison of like which borough has better quality fabric, it would be Manhattan. Like, yeah, fabric stores in Manhattan are more expensive, but the quality generally tends to be better and the variety generally tends to be wider, you know? So it is worth the trip if you live in Brooklyn or one of the other boroughs, you know, far from Manhattan, or not far, but not in Manhattan. It is worth the trip, if you're looking for something in particular. So yeah, like I said, there is, specialty stores geared towards specialty fabric, like spandex fabric, for example. And then speaking of like specialty things in Manhattan, if you're looking just for like notions, like zippers and buttons and fringe and tassels and interfacing, like just the sewing notions, I highly recommend Pacific Trim. It's also expensive. Not gonna hold you. Not gonna hold you. Like I said, anything in Manhattan is usually a bit more costoso, more costly, but it's worth it because there's more variety. But this store, Pacific Trim, is my go-to. Like if I'm looking for a specific type of zipper, like for example, like a super, super long zipper, or like a zipper that's like, the zippers that have like the round hook on the, like for the puller, or like if I'm looking for, what else have I bought from there? Boning. Um, what else have I bought from there? Some like really like sparkly rhinestone like buttons. Pacific Trim is where it is. It is. It's worth it. And there's another like Notion store too. There's a few other Notion stores in the garment district. But Pacific Trim is the one that really like I remember. And then another thing, like resource that I want to share. So I know I mentioned Mood Fabrics for fabric, but and while, like I said, while I honestly wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, girl or boy or human, go get your fabric from Mood. While I wouldn't necessarily say that about Mood, what I will say about Mood is you should look into their sewing classes. A few years ago, I took a pattern drafting class there, and it was actually really good. It was really good. I don't remember. I think it was like a 6 week class, and it was like only Saturdays or something. And it was really good. It was really good. It was definitely really good. And I've actually been thinking like of taking another class there. I want to take like a draping class. Um, so I would definitely recommend that. Check out Mood. Check out their website for their classes, and check out their website for their patterns. Mood has a bunch of sewing, like free sewing patterns on their website. The only caveat I would say with their free sewing patterns is like sometimes the instructions are not like the most thorough. And maybe sometimes you'll have to make adjustments to the sizes or the sizing and the fit. But I mean, come on, it's free. Like, what more can you ask for, you know? So yeah, Mood is definitely good for that, for classes and patterns. And Mood is also good for like equipment. Like they have dress forms. The last time I went there anyway, they had dress forms. I think they had like sewing tables. Um, yeah, like actual equipment there too. Excuse me. And then a final resource that I want to share, and this one is based in Harlem, is called Savathon. So it's a store that has like fabric, like super cheap fabrics and notions. Um, and it's kind of, I will say, like, because the prices are so low, you do kind of run the risk of getting like cheap fabric. Not everything in there quality wise is cheap. Like some stuff in Savathon is like good quality, you know? You just have to have you just have to have the eye for it. But one other thing that I wanted to mention about Savathon, um, at least the one in Harlem, is they have sewing classes there too. Like really cheap sewing classes. I think if you wanted to take a sewing class and you didn't necessarily want to pay like a mood price, you should consider Savathon because their sewing classes are cheaper, and I think they have it where like you don't have to commit. I think, don't quote me on it, but I think they have it where like you don't have to commit to like a package of classes. You can just do like if you wanted to do one class on a Saturday, you just pay that price, and if you want to come back the next Saturday, then you do, without that commitment of like, oh, I have to pay $1,000 for 6 classes that I might not even want to take, you know. So they're really good for that, sewing classes. And I don't know, don't quote me on it. But I remember that when there was Save-a-thon in Flatbush, they had sewing classes and they also had sewing machine servicing. So you could bring in your sewing machine and they would fix it. I think they would keep it like for some days or something, or a day or whatever, and fix it, and then you come and pick it up. I don't know if the one in Harlem has that or if any of the other locations have it, but it wouldn't hurt to look into it. I definitely recommend that you, if you have a sewing machine, definitely get your sewing machine serviced. Like, yes, even if you are, making an effort to like dust it out and like, take out the parts that you have access to, even if you do that, you should still get it serviced. And actually, that reminds me, I want to never mind, because that's going to take too long. I was going to say I want to share a company that is good for sewing machine servicing, but I don't remember the name. Um, but maybe I'll go and I'll add it to the description box after I upload this. But that company is really good. Like I actually got my sewing machine. I got her serviced like 2 weekends ago. And let me tell you, she is running, okay? She's going so fast. Like, she's still a little loud, but not as loud. And like, literally, I just sewed a denim. I don't know if you can see it. Oh, no, you can't see it. But I sewed a denim skirt like the day after, or the day or two after I got it serviced. And denim is really thick, especially if you're dealing with like the layers. But it literally was just like going swimming through it. So I definitely recommend that you get your sewing machine serviced. Again, I don't remember the name of that place from the top of my head, but what I will say that I liked about that place was that they did um in-house visits. So the guy like came to my house and like, fixed, not fixed, but serviced my machine. I didn't have to go anywhere or do anything. And um at the end, when I asked him, I was like, when should I get it serviced again? He was like, 5 years. I was like, okay. Okay, good. So yeah, that is about it. Thank you for joining me. I hope you found those resources helpful. I think just to kind of like conclude this in a smooth way, I'm literally just going to list the names of the places that I mentioned. I'm not going to go into detail. Oh no, I lost my window. I found it. Okay. I'm not going to go into detail about the places, but I'm just going to list them. I'm just going to fire them off and then sign off. So, some great sewing resources for New York based people, whether you live here or whether you're visiting, are NurJahan fabric stores on on Fulton Street and Flatbush Ave, Fab Scrap in Brooklyn, BlackGirlsSew, LC Apparel, Textile Arts Center, the Garment District in general, like Midtown, 34th Street, 8th Ave area, Spandex World, Spandex House, Pacific Trim, Mood sewing classes, Moon Fabrics, and Sabathon. And that's it. And remember to get your sewing machine serviced. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've been enjoying these live streams, and I look forward to seeing you in tomorrow's live stream. Be well. Ciao.